Hey, it's Rob and welcome to Axel's Garage. Today's a real quick one, nice and easy. Reading codes on an older OBD1 vehicle. Now, back in the 80s, and I think all the way up to 95 or 96, somewhere is where they went to OBD2, which was pretty much standardized across all manufacturers. But prior to that, each manufacturer had their own little diagnostic port, and you needed to buy, back in the 80s, one of these code scanners. And I have one for GMs, I have one for Fords, and back then we didn't have the internet, and we thought that this was a mystical, magical device that you plugged in and it spit out codes that you had a book and you'd look up in the book, and the book really didn't tell you a whole lot. Didn't give you a ton of information. And as time went on and we learned what these actually were, these things that were back then ridiculously expensive, probably, I don't know, $50, $60 back in 1988 was a lot to spend on something like this. But we did it because you needed to know your codes, you needed to pull the codes out, and it turns out all this box is, and you can see it's just got a couple of contacts in it. There's really nothing in this box except for a jumper and this little piece of copper wire, and this is just solid 12 gauge copper wire, is all you need. That is this. That's it. Probably not even this. This copper wire has probably got more copper in it, more wire in it than this has. All it is jumping out two of those prongs on the diagnostic port, and I'll show you which ones they are. So if you have one of these, use it. If you don't, this is all you need. Doesn't need to be solid copper that I pull off a roll that I have. It could be stranded wire, anything to jump the two ports. So what you're going to do is you're going to jump those two terminals. You're going to turn your ignition on, and your check engine light or your service engine light, whatever light it may be in the particular vehicle you have, is going to start flashing. And we're going to show you that in real time. All you need is a piece of paper and a pen so that you can keep track of what codes it may or may not spit out, and then you let Google do the rest. So let me show you that diagnostic port and what you have to do with either this or this, and then we'll get the codes pulled out of this 87 GMC. It's an R1500 actually, but we call it a C10. So on the driver's side, down under the dash, in a similar spot where you would find it on a newer vehicle, we're going to find our diagnostic port. And there it is right there. And you can see it's got a bunch of terminals on it in two rows. And the ones that we're concerned with is the top row, this top row of terminals right here, not the bottom row, right here. And the top row, the two last ones, that's your A and your B. And what you would do is you would take your jumper and you'd bend it to get the right fit, and you'd plug it in to the A and B so that you're jumping the A and B across. And it's that simple. Or if you have a tool, you're just going to take it and you're going to plug it in, make sure it's seated all the way in, and you're going to leave it like that. It's doing the exact same thing as the jumper wire would be doing. You're just jumping out those top two terminals all the way on the right side, and they call them the A and B terminals. So now, sitting inside the vehicle, I'm sure the acoustics have changed a little bit, but I got my scan tool, if you would call it, plugged in instead of the jumper, and I'm sure, I mean, there's a bunch of, you saw there's a bunch of connections down there in that port, and they may or may not have a function or a use. From what I understand, they did make like a big scan tool that only the dealers had back then for those ports, and maybe at one point, you know, you used all of them for some kind of diagnostics. I don't know. That's way beyond me. But pretty much sitting in the vehicle, what you do is you just turn your ignition on. And you turn your ignition on and you keep your eye on your service engine light or your check engine light, whichever one it might be. You'll see it'll start flashing. And I'm going to move the camera, put it on the instrument panel, and you're going to keep track, because what's going to happen now is it's going to flash once, and then pause, and then in succession again. So you're going to get a 1, then a pause, and then a 1, 2. And that is going to happen anywhere from 2 to 3 times. You're going to get 1, 1, 2. And that 1, 1, 2 is letting you know that you're there, and that's the beginning. And then any codes that might be stored are going to come after that 1, 1, 2. So it might give you a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and it'll do that 2 or 3 times in a row, and then it'll go back to the 1, and then the 1, 2. And when it goes back to the 1 and the 1, 2, you know you're done. Those are all your codes. So the 1 and the 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, which is a 12, is letting you know that you're starting and you're ending. And anything in between there are your codes, and you need to write it down because that's how it's giving you the numbers. So it could go 1, 2, 3, and then a pause, and then a 1, and that would be like 31. So follow along, get out a piece of paper. All right, I'm using the back of some junk mail envelope that I got, and grab a pen and the keys, and when you turn the ignition on, it's going to start. And you can do it as many times as you want. If you think you missed something, you could go through it again and again and again. But we're going to do it. I'm going to show you the light. Trying to avoid some of the sun glare for you. There you go. All right, so with the key in the ignition, I'm just going to turn the ignition on. I'm not going to start the vehicle. I'm not going to crank the vehicle. Just going to turn the vehicle on. And let's see what that gauge does. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. 1, 1, 2. That was 3 1 2s, so we know we're started now. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's our first code, 15. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Oh, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. So it's giving it 3 times each. That's code 22. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's code 33. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, 3 times code 33. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm getting a code 44 in now. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 3 times 44. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're getting a 54 in now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2. All right. 1, 1, 2. So that's our 3 1, 1, 2s. 1, 1, 2. So now we know we're at the end of the cycle. All right. And now we're back going through it again. So they're just giving us a 15 again, and it will keep going probably until the battery dies. So we know we're done though, because we got the 1, 2 at the beginning, and we got the 1, 2 at the end. We know we're done. You could turn your ignition off, and you could take your jumper or your fancy code scanner out of the diagnostic port. All right, so now what do? We have code 15, we have code 22, we have code 33, we have code 44, and we have code 54. So you go to Google, which, like I said, these code scanners or code readers, pull mine out. These used to come with a book. It was a little booklet, and you'd have to have the booklet, and if you lost that booklet, you were screwed because you had no idea. And it would just tell you this circuit, that circuit. It really didn't give you a lot of information. Google actually gives you more information than the old books did. So code 15 is coming up as a coolant temperature sensor error. And your coolant temperature sensor is the sensor that the ECM uses to read the temperature of your coolant. It is not for your gauge that is separate in the side of the cylinder head that feeds the gauge in these vehicles. We also got a code 22, which is your throttle position sensor low voltage. We got a code 33, which is a map sensor code. We got a code 44, which is a O2 sensor reading lean. And we got a code 54, which is a fuel pump circuit, low voltage from the fuel pump relay. Now, if I remember back in the day, a code 54 would tell you it was your fuel pump circuit and wouldn't give you any more information. A code 15 would tell you it was a coolant temp sensor circuit. It always said circuit because it could have been anything. It didn't give you a lot more information. And over the years, I guess people or other people, investigating, how all these circuits run can give you more information. So doing a little research on Google can actually point you in the right direction. And if you take the information you get in the codes, do some research what the codes are doing or what could be the possible cause to set that code, and take that information and put it into the information that you have on the vehicle. What's the problem that you're experiencing with the vehicle? It could help you narrow down what could possibly be wrong, so that if you do throw parts at it, you're throwing parts in the right direction. And if you're trying to diagnose without throwing parts at it, you can diagnose in the right direction. There's a ton of information online about these vehicles, and there's also a ton that's not there. That's hard to find, where you wind up throwing a part here or there, so you try to throw the least expensive part here or there when you're doing that. So for us, we know just running these down, code 54 fuel pump circuit, low voltage from the fuel pump relay, was the extra information that I got. Like I said, fuel pump circuit would have been your basic information in the booklet. Google told me, or I read somewhere in one of the links when I searched OBD1 code 54 GM, and I always put GM in there because, like I said, every manufacturer had their own little setup. It wasn't universal like it is today. I read an article where you'll set that code if the ECM sees low voltage from the fuel pump relay. It turns out, in a video we did 1 or 2 videos ago on this vehicle, that the fuel pump relay did in fact go bad, and we weren't getting a prime in our fuel pump circuit. The fuel pump was only running when we had oil pressure. It was running through the oil pressure switch, not through the fuel pump relay. The fuel pump relay was bad, and we replaced the fuel pump relay, and we now have a prime circuit. These codes don't generally disappear anymore like they do in new vehicles. So what you need to do to get these codes to disappear is disconnect your battery, take your positive, and I hear this helps reset the ECM, is take your positive and negative battery cables and touch them together when they're disconnected from the battery to release any stored energy and capacitors that might be in the vehicle. I don't know how true that is or not. That's what it could be, like an old wives' tale or a automotive myth. You could disconnect the battery. I usually just disconnect the battery, and it seems to clear the codes. I usually leave it overnight. So if I know I want to clear them, I'll disconnect it, especially in one of these old trucks that has really no memory. I don't think there's anything that's pulling from the battery when we're sitting here. So I disconnect the battery overnight, replug it back in, and all the codes are gone. This way you know if your repair worked. So our fuel pump relay circuit, our fuel pump is working as it should after I replace the relay. Now I clear the codes, and if I check the codes again, I should at least not have that one. You know, I'll have the rest of them, the 15, the 22, the 33, but the 54 should be gone, and then we know that that was successful. So you can also use it diagnostic by clearing them. So let's make a change, clear the codes, see what codes come back, and you can be a little diagnostic that way as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Real nice, simple, easy. Like I said, if you don't have the fancy code scanner, this is a Sun Pro code scanner, car computer code reader. They made it sound so special, right? There it is. Okay. Like I said, this was something in the day, but now you know, everyone has a OBD1 code scanner for GM vehicles at home, because this is all you need. Hope you enjoyed the video. Comments, questions, concerns down in the box below, and as always, thanks for watching.